And now we're going to go back to our regular weekly topics that we're going to be covering. So for today's specific session, we're going to talk all about the Microsoft Developer Conference that just happened last week. Anyone heard about Microsoft Build before? All right. So if you are a developer working in this space of cloud, AI, or anything Microsoft related, you should not miss Microsoft Build. This is our yearly conference. It runs in the US. This year it was in San Francisco. So all of the new announcements, what's Microsoft releasing across everything, right? We announced a lot of things with like our partnership with NVIDIA, the new Windows devices that now have NVIDIA chips in them. That for me, honestly, is one of my favorite announcements. Like imagine now your own personal device can run, has the same compute as the data center that was used to train ChatGPT 3.5. That's crazy. And then a lot of other announcements with regard to like some models, new models that we released regarding data. We announced things with infrastructure, cloud, security. Today specifically, we're going to focus on AI announcements. And I have here my colleague Abdulrahman. He's going to be covering things else. So how many students do we have here in the audience? All right, so Abdulrahman he's an intern with us. So if you're like curious to learn more about like how it's like being a student working on Microsoft, do chat with him later. And before we get started, I just want to remind everyone about the AI Skills Fest. Anyone has heard of the AI Skills Fest before? If you haven't, guys, you have like, I think it finishes on the 12th of June, this weekend. Do not miss out. You're going to get a free Microsoft certification voucher that you can claim. All you got to do is just watch a playlist. And then khalas, like it's automatic. You'll get it. It's like everything. It's managed, and you'll be able to redeem your voucher. So do not miss out. All you gotta do is just search up AI Skills Fest. It's gonna be like the first link, and then go through that. All right. So before we start, just to get a sense of the room, how many people have worked with Foundry before? Heard of Foundry before? Okay, very not as many people as I thought. Okay, a couple more hands are getting up. So we'll spend time talking a little bit about what Foundry is, because if I tell you about what's new, you're not gonna understand what already exists. And then later on, we're going to look at some of the new announcements, and then we can take some questions at the end as well. Okay, so let's get started. How many AI developers do we have in the room? Okay. All right. Okay, so let's start with just set a bit of context, right, before we jump into the actual platform. So as we all know, AI is here. It's reshaping how we work with things, and it's really impacting us in a lot of different domains. How we like the employee experience specifically. Here I'm talking about like enterprise AI, increasing productivity, allowing you to really build like hyper-personalized applications to cater for different customers, automating certain workflows, saving time and cost, and really speeding up innovation and faster time to market. So AI is here, and we all know it. We keep hearing about it all over the news. We see it. And now there's also this shift to like agents as well, right? So there's a study that's saying like by 2028, there's going to be 1.3 billion agents. I'm constantly with customer conversations, and we're always talking about agent use cases. A lot of them already live, some of them being piloted as well. So we keep hearing about it, but what is an agent, right? An agent, essentially think of it, this is like the anatomy of the agent, right? You have input. It could be data coming in from logs, from an event. It could be messages from the user. It could be messages from like another agent. And then you have a brain, right? This could be a model, any model, right? Shout out some of your favorite models. Opus 4.8. Yeah, we've got Claude models. Any Claude fanboys and fangirls. I love Claude. Yeah, so you got Claude, you got ChatGPT, you've got Gemini, you've got open source models, you've got so many different models. That's really the brain of the agent that allows the agent to reason based on the inputs that it has and the instructions. And it also has a set of tools, right? So these tools could do different things. They could, for example, send an email, do a web search, be able to execute a specific task, integrate into a system, raise a support ticket. So it has a set of actions that it could take and memory to keep things in context about like what happened during the session or even in previous sessions as well, right? Short-term, long-term memory. And then after that, it generates an output. And it does this, and this is really the part that makes it an agent, is it does this in a loop, right? It keeps reasoning on top of what it has to do and the inputs it has to get the result that is needed. So this is the anatomy of an agent. So when it comes to building agent systems, it's not really like there's a history to it. We've been building things similar to this for a while. So let's just talk a little bit about how it was before, right? Anyone heard of RPA before? Right? Well, what is RPA? Yeah, raise your voice.
Robotic process.
What is that?
Automating a task by giving some script or a series of steps which it repeats without changing anything.
Okay, so can I say that that is also an agent?
Partially, like because there's intelligence on top of it.
It's existed for a while, like for years. RPA systems have been around. And an agent, what's the difference?
So steps are not changing. You can choose an RPA, but if you need some logic to be kept on top, you have to go for agent.
Right. What's your name?
Training itself.
My name is Funny.
Funny?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you were saying, Aziz?
RPA is not training itself, like agents that train on previous data and improve itself.
Right. So the difference is about like how deterministic the steps are and what you anticipate the workflow to be, right? With RPA, khalas, you already know, click here, do this, then fill in this form it's predefined, and then that's like it follows it instruction by instruction, and khalas, every time it has the same input, similar output, and the control flow logic is clear. What makes agents different is because humans, a lot of things we work with, everyone has a different pattern of working with a system. Sometimes the data is not structured, and you could face errors, and these errors sometimes have never been seen before. So what makes an agent different from an RPA system is that it's able to, again, like that loop that I mentioned, because of like these smart intelligent models that it has access to. It's able to know, oh, okay, so I wasn't able to get to this result, so maybe I should try this route. And then it just tries the other tools that it has access to. So this is what makes it different. So it plans, reasons, and acts, and does this iteratively to reach its goal. And then now you have multi-agent system, right? So you have, think of an agent, I like to think of agents also like a microservice, right? It does something specific, and then you could have another agent that does something else that's very specific, like an HR agent and a finance agent. And then both of these agents can talk to each other to execute a wider task. So this is what like a workflow of sort of agents is like, right? So we started out with something basic, like repetitive tasks, like just input a specific, this example is an HR use case, inputting new hire information into the HR system. Then like chatbots, basic chatbots have been around, asking a question and then it has access to a knowledge base and then just answers it using like basic lexical search or something like that. And then with agents, it's a bit more like there's an action involved. Khalas, I go to my onboarding agent, I just ask it, hey, I have a new hire coming, like order a laptop. Khalas, it already knows like how to do that. It has access to the company's portal. It has access to the IT desk's support ticket system, and it does that for you. And then agentic system does a more wider tasks, like onboard 5 employees. Oh, well, that requires raising a ticket with the procurement team, and then raising a ticket with the IT team for the laptops, and then raising a ticket with the HR team to get them badge access. So it requires several tasks. So all of these agents are sort of orchestrated to execute that task. So this is sort of like where we're heading towards, like these multi-agent systems. Okay, and these agents, building it is not similar to traditional software. So those of you who have been software engineers for a while, you would notice, yeah, generative AI applications, it's not the same as writing like a piece of code or a function that's very deterministic and you can easily test it and it will always behave the same way. So agents are really changing the way we manage AI, how we are interacting with the software, how are we able to unlock different insights from the data sources that we have, and how we approach different challenges. So this again, like they could be very basic agents, or they could be something more advanced that does more complex tasks. So we're talking all about agents, but it's not easy, right? And I can tell you, as someone who's been working on a lot of AI projects with customers here, there's the high expectations from these agents, but sometimes maybe they don't deliver or they don't make it past the POC stage. It's not that easy to build an agent because maybe like the model keeps changing, right? Like, yani, literally, Claude 4.8 came out 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. And then yesterday, another Claude model came out, which is Fable. And it's like expected to be better. Yani, God knows what's going to happen 2 weeks from now. Like, you know, before everyone was talking about like DeepSeek, then something else came out, like, you know, so it keeps changing, right? So you're like overwhelmed, like, what do you do? And how are you going to keep iterating over these things? Sometimes it's hard to orchestrate these different agents because they're built on different systems. Cost. Gosh, yeah, now we're hearing so much in the news, right? Like these companies are cutting down costs because like tokens are not cheap, because GPUs are not cheap, because, you know, you need like infrastructure to run them. So there's a lot of concerns about cost because agents are very, very token hungry systems, right? Because as we know, LLMs, they are stateless, right? They do not have any memory. All of these other things, yani, the short-term memory, long-term memory thing I told you about, it needs to be passed to the LLM in a call in order to have this, to be able to answer correctly. So imagine, yani, multi-agent system, you need to pass the history, you need to pass like the tool call, you need to pass the definition, you need to pass the skill. So there's a lot of tokens, right? So cost also comes, it's very high. And also like continuously monitoring and making them better. Like a new model comes in, how do you deal with that? So there are several challenges that comes up when it's about building agentic systems, right? So now we're thinking about like agentic DevOps or Gen AI Ops, right? So how do you make sure that you make your agents repeatable, you have proper unit testing for your DevOps, you're able to take it from like, you know, dev to prod, how are you able to evaluate them? And a lot of times I feel like so many projects I've worked on, I'm like, okay, how do you know you're ready to go to production? Well, يعني vibe check, you know, we just see like it looks like it's answering questions correctly, but they don't have like a proper way of like testing or evaluating because I think the industry as a whole right now evals like a very important topic, is figuring like what's the best way to do it. There's a lot of innovation, and we're going to talk about how Foundry helps. But this is like a very, very, very crucial point, right? Because you can't take something to production if you don't know all of these metrics. And security is a big, big point as well. Yani, there's been so many instances of projects where it gets past the POC phase, everything, but then it gets blocked by security, right? As we learned from the security series that we just finished. So it's very important. How do you, these agents, sometimes they ask access to everything, right? They need to have access to the database to be able to execute queries. They need to be able to access the systems. So how do you manage all of this? How can you trust this agent? How do you prevent from like data exfiltration, prompt injection? How do you know that this model is not poisoned? Like there's a lot of things to think about. It's not a simple thing. Yani, especially I think as I interact a lot with people who are like in enterprises in different domains, and also interact with people who like maybe work on like small like side projects. I think it's fun when you're doing side projects because you just build something really quick and they're like, oh my God, like I did it, this is great. But then when you're in an enterprise, and those of you who are enterprise, they would know, like, yeah, it's nice, but then the process of taking it to production at a big company with lots of governance and controls, it's not that easy. So these are the challenges that that are faced, right? And again, like we mentioned, traditional apps, it's يعني خلاص, everything is deterministic, fixed rules. The code, you don't touch it for like 2 years, you run it again. After 2 years, it's gonna be the same, يعني, right? If all the environment, everything is the same, the packages haven't changed. No. With AI agent, it's not the same, right? Like because these models, they're probabilistic. And inherently, they're not meant to generate the same response every time. And it's not like even when it comes to the workflow, it's more dynamic. The skills as well, like yani, when it comes to developing these agents, you need to think about like prompt engineering. You need to think about like context management. You need to think about spec-driven development and all these stuff. So even like the way you build them is different. Right, so I'm spending time to explain this so you get the context of what it's like building AI applications, especially in an enterprise. All right, so again, just summarizing the challenges, some of the challenges we talked about it. It's hard to select what's the right model. The workflows are too complex. Tool sprawl, right? So you have like so many different tools. You need to manage the authentication to each one of them, and then you need to write custom functions to be able to do that. And then يعني, suddenly like the API for that specific third-party tool changes, so you got to go manage that. Like there's a lot of like you're overwhelmed, it generates a lot of tech debt, and so on. Observability and governance is a very important point as well. How to flag certain cases of abuse, content safety as well. So that's why Deloitte said 70%, imagine, of GenAI experiments have not moved to production because of these challenges, right? So when it comes to like AI app development, like this is it at a basic level. You have your prompt, right? And then you have your model, and then the actual application code, the actual application logic, and then the response. And then obviously when you have multiple agents at scale, you have a lot of people using it, you need to think about so many other controls that we mentioned earlier. So what does a Gen AI developer need? They need to be able to rapidly iterate on different versions of their applications. They need to be able to easily experiment with different models, know what's the best model. They need to make sure that security is built in to their application, and they're easily able to gain insights of how their agents are performing to manage their life cycle. And this is like sort of the life cycle of an AI application, right? So you need like, you have the actual AI app, you have the models, right? And then you have all the knowledge bases, the tools that this application needs to be able to access. Then there's the observability element. Sometimes you want to maybe do some fine tuning, right? So you want to have, you don't want to take the model that's just like out of the box from OpenAI or any other maybe generative AI model. You want to be able to train it on your company data instead of doing retrieval augmented generation all the time. So you want to have the flexibility to do that. And also maybe sometimes you want to be able to deploy it on your own data center. Maybe you have your own GPUs. Maybe you have your employees have access to like very strong devices, and you want them to run certain use cases locally in their own device. So you want to be able to have that option as well. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how do you actually build this, and specifically from the Microsoft side of things, right? So Before that, I feel like I've been talking a while, and usually I don't talk this much before taking a pause for questions. Questions so far, or thoughts so far? You know my sessions, I like to keep it interactive. Are we clear so far in terms of the challenges? Anyone wants to share from their own experience? Or I will pick, because I know some of you guys. Some people are avoiding eye contact. Aziz, have you ever built an agent before?
Yeah.
So what do you think in terms of like what some of the challenges you face?
Yeah, those are the main challenges. When I worked on the simple projects and it worked fine, so I was happy. But if we have to put this in production, in an enterprise environment, these are the things we're going to face. And one of the reasons why I actually came today is we are working on a project like this, 2 AI projects in my company, and I'm in charge of the database part. So I want to come and see what are the things that we can, different type of question we can ask the vendor to make sure we're actually building the right thing.
All right. Aisha, would you want to share in terms of like your experience looking at, overseeing some AI POCs and so on? Like, how's your experience?
Well, we're working on chatbot as well, and with App Lab.
No need to call names.
Without calling any vendors, but yeah, it's pretty much challenging, especially getting the right answers from the right databases. It's just iterative thing.
And these projects will take a long time because if there's no consensus on like when are you ready to go live, right? Because it's hard to measure and evaluate these things. Anyone else wants to share? Anyone maybe like built an AI application before that wants to? Yes, Abdulrahman?
Yeah, so I tried using GitHub Copilot to, I guess, because at some point GitHub Copilot student account was not actually very known to students. So I tried to make it more, I guess, accessible to students by just having a wrapper that's a Chrome extension, right? But then it was working fine locally, but then when you try to put it in production, it doesn't work as well. It's very hard in terms of security. It's very hard in terms of, and my entire idea got shut down because Claude Anthropic did the exact same thing 2 weeks after I was doing that. So I got very annoyed. So yeah.
All right.
The implementation of role-based access control is the main challenge, which I am also facing.
On the agent itself, or like on what exactly?
I am trying to connect multiple agents together using A2A protocol, but I want one agent to access that specific data and the other agent to other data. But somehow they can access each other because at the knowledge base level, I am using Microsoft IQ, and this is basically same. So if we are using the microservices, then it is very easy. But when it comes to agents, then restricting them is very different.
Interesting. All right. Anyone else wants to? Oh, Alameen, you came at the right time. I'm gonna pick on you because you came late. We were just talking about the challenges people face when developing AI applications and why it fails or it takes a really long time to go to production. What are some of the things comments you have on that? Cybersecurity. Yeah, we were talking about that, right? Like it takes. We often build it as AI engineers. We build it in a vacuum. We don't think about all of the governance and security controls that rightfully, like the cybersecurity needs to, because that's their role. They need to think about how to secure their organization. So it's important as an AI developer for you to be one step ahead and be aware of these things and use platforms that make it easier for you to have these things built in. Okay. So when it comes to building AI agents or AI applications today, there's different ways to do it, right? We have infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And what I want you to think about is the more you go towards that side, the more things are abstracted for you, and it's easier to iterate and develop. And the more control, visibility, and customization you have, you want to come to this side, right? So infrastructure as a service, you can just build everything locally, like your whole logic, everything. Package it into a container, run it in a Microsoft Azure VM or any VM that has that compute, right? So this way you just control everything. But then it's harder to manage certain things, scale. Like you need to think about so many other things like security, patching, everything, because the responsibility is more on you. And then when you go to something like a PaaS service, like a platform as a service, it gives you. This is more like for developers. You still have access to the code. There's certain knobs that you can control, but there's certain things that are abstracted for it. You will see that, like things like authentication. We have the Microsoft agent framework. It provides a lot of layers of abstractions over things that would take a lot of time and a lot of technical depth. And then there's software as a service. This is more meant for business users, right? يعني, even a regular person sitting in the HR team, they can build their own agent that does a basic thing. So we have Copilot Studio for that. Anyone have worked with Copilot Studio before? All right. So Copilot Studio is, think of it يعني, sort of like a drag and drop thing. Like you just have a designer, like a workflow. خلاص, you just drag how you want the steps to look like. What are the connectors? You have options to write some code, but it's more low code. So at Microsoft, we give you the capability to choose whatever fits your needs best, right? Some customers, they don't want يعني خلاص, I want to control everything. عادي, use that option. Well, my team is not very good with Python or .NET or anything, then just go with Copilot Studio. But if you want like, sort of like best of both worlds, you want a bit more control, this is where Foundry comes in, and this is what we're going to be discussing. Any questions? Okay. So again, in terms of like different level, but at the end of the day, they're all doing the same thing, right? When it comes to building an agent, you give it a model, a set of instructions, and access to tools. But it's just like how you do it is a bit different, right? يعني for GPUs or containers, like you have to define everything in the code. In Foundry, there's certain things that are abstracted for you in the UI or using the framework. And in Copilot Studio, خلاص, you do everything within the UI itself. And again, each one of them has different level of control, different cost elements, different ways to integrate. So these are things to consider as well when you want to decide whether you want to go low code or pro code. It's very important to consider this, because I've been in some projects where like, because I'm not part of the Copilot team, I'm part of like, the more GPU Foundry team. But when I go there, I'm like, yeah, guys, you already have Copilot Studio and your use case is very basic. Like, why do you want to overcomplicate things? Just use a simple agent, and it actually works, right? That's why it's very important for you also as a developer to, even though maybe you're not part of the low-code business apps team, to be able to know what other options exist, not just within like the Microsoft ecosystem, all the other ecosystems as well, to be able to recommend the right thing, especially for those of you who want to be in more like an architecture role as well. So do consider what are the skills of the team, what are the requirements, how fast they want to move. Copilot Studio Agent just takes like literally 5 minutes, it's already up. The other ones require more time and so on. So it's very important to be aware of these things. By the way, just a note on the Copilot Studio one, we have a session in 2 weeks just for the ladies, where we're partnering with Women in AI Qatar. We're having a hands-on workshop all about Copilot Studio. If you haven't seen the post yet, I think the seats are already filled. I hope some of you were able to register. Yeah. Anyone who didn't get to register, let me see if I can pull some things. I think it's mostly Women in AI members. Not a lot of our members got to register. Anyways. Let's go to the next one. Sorry, guys, but inshallah we'll have a session that's more inclusive for everyone. But we gotta do it for the girlies.
Represent all of you.
Okay, so now let's talk about Foundry. Okay, Foundry, we call it the AI app and agent factory, right? This is like our marketing term. This is what we recommend when it comes for developers to build agents in the Microsoft ecosystem. And there's different parts of Foundry that we're gonna cover. We're not gonna go too much in depth in all of them because we don't have much time. We're planning to have a more hands-on session on Foundry where you get to follow a Microsoft Learn path and learn these things yourself. But today's session is gonna be more like high level and showing you some demos as well. So you have the models, and then you have agents, and then you have IQ, which is sort of like our knowledge layer. Anyone knows Azure AI Search or Azure Cognitive Search? Yeah, so think of Azure IQ is like built on top of Azure AI Search and Azure Cognitive Search with much more knowledge retrieval capabilities. Our research and engineering teams have done a lot of efforts to increase the accuracy of retrieval augmented generation systems with introduction of IQ. And there's even a research paper published about it. Really interesting insight if you're interested in that, learning about these things. And then you have the tools. We have more than 1,400 tools that you can easily integrate with in Foundry. And then you have the machine learning part, right? Let's say if you want to build a basic model, like a linear regression model or like an XGBoost, or you want to do some document intelligence. We also have something called AI content understanding. We're going to talk about them in a bit. And then, of course, you have the control plane that allows you to manage all of these aspects and have observability on top of your generative AI applications. And Foundry can be in the cloud, and we also have something called Foundry Local as well. So you can run Foundry offline within your own device as well, or your own, let's say, GPU systems, or if you have something like Azure Local. If you don't know what's Azure Local, we did a session a while ago about it as well. And of course, the layer of security, compliance, and governance. And so this, in a nutshell, is Foundry. And this is what enterprises need, right? I'm just going to go on a sort of like a side discussion. يعني sometimes, I'm going to be يعني honest here, sometimes people are like, oh, like why should we go with Foundry? Like, oh, this other model is better. Why do I need to use like this Microsoft or so on? And also, like, why does Microsoft not have any like models, right? You're just like taking other people's models and putting it there. Because this is what we see when we work with customers, right? And like I just mentioned before, models keep changing. Like I said, 2 weeks ago, Cloud 4.8, today, another Cloud model. At the end of the day, the model is just an endpoint. It's going to keep getting smarter. And our focus is not just about the models, it's about the whole end-to-end thing. How do you deploy a generative AI application in an enterprise specifically? The governance, the security, the tool management, the collaboration. This is where our focus and strategy mainly is. And also on a side note, we do have now Microsoft Research and my models that were released that are very trained on enterprise data and are very, very, very low cost as well. So that's just like a side note. But this is really what makes Foundry different. And it is the one of the most widest adopted AI application in a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and a lot of them people are running it in production. In Qatar, almost hundreds of entities are already using it, and they are already live. So if you're someone who wants to pivot into that field and want to work with customers in Qatar, it's very important to know how Foundry works. Okay. So there's different, like just to delve a bit deeper, so you can work with Foundry within the UI. I'm going to shift a bit and take you to the portal in just a second. But you can integrate it from GitHub, from your Visual Studio Code itself. You can work with it. You can work with it from Copilot Studio. And also we have more than 1,400 tools with Bing, with ServiceNow, SAP, with OneLake. So if you have your data, if you're a Fabric customer and you already have your data warehouse in Fabric, or maybe even if your data is somewhere else, because with OneLake we have things like shortcuts and mirroring. Let's say if all of your data stack is in a Google storage account, or is it in an AWS storage account, or it's in Snowflake, or in Databricks, you're able to get it easily into OneLake and then make your AI work on top of that. And also we have integration with Defender, Purview, Intra, Agent 365, all things that we covered in our previous series as well. So let me go to the Foundry UI itself. Let's see. Okay. So first things, I have to go to let me come here, to the Azure portal. Who is their first time seeing this portal? Raise your hand, Adi, if you haven't seen this before. Okay. So this is the Microsoft Azure portal. What is Microsoft Azure, in case you've never heard of it before, if you're completely new to the cloud? Microsoft Azure is Microsoft's cloud offering. What is the cloud? I said this before, but the way I like to think about the cloud is just someone else's computer, right? Instead of running things on your own computer, you run it on someone else's computer. Why? Because it's more expensive to manage your own computer. Sometimes you just need to run like a very simple application. Why are you gonna buy a whole machine that you need to maintain, worry about the cooling, worry about the security, worry about someone not stealing it, all this stuff. So that's why people go for the cloud, because it's faster to iterate on. There's so many different cloud providers, Microsoft being one of them. So that's the Microsoft, that's what Microsoft Azure in the nutshell. And there's different services that you can run on Azure, whether you want to spin up a database, you want to spin up a virtual machine, you want to package your code and deploy it as an application. There's a lot of things you could do. So when it comes to deploying something on Azure, first you need to create a resource group. Think of a resource group. Actually, I'm sick of talking. Who should I pick on? Muntasir, what is a resource group?
Store your stuff, like, your VM and all this stuff.
Yeah, think of it as a logical grouping of your resources, right? So when it comes first, you have like your Azure tenant. So when I say tenant, I mean like, for example, here, this is my tenant. It's like this is my user account, and then this is my tenant, like Microsoft non-production. This is like, think of it as like a house. And then under inside this tenant, I have a lot of different subscriptions. Subscriptions, if you see here, I have here, this is my subscription. Subscription is just the way you get billed, right? So you have a subscription that's connected to a billing account. And then inside the subscriptions, you have different resource groups. Resource groups are just the way you group your resources. And what is a resource? There's so many different resources, right? So if I come here to this part and I click on create a resource, there's so many different resources on Azure, like we mentioned, that you could deploy. Let me just do a refresh. I think I have a lot of things running on my device right now. So you can deploy, like I mentioned, like a Oracle database. You can deploy a container app, or you can deploy an image of an already created system. You can deploy Databricks. So you have a lot of different resources that you can deploy here, like some of the categories, right? So this is Microsoft Azure in a nutshell. I recommend you do the AI skills fest. There's a path about like fundamentals of Azure. So then you can do your Azure fundamentals exam. This is sort of your first stepping stone into the Azure world. If you're new to cloud and everything, this is what I recommend to those of you who are new. Okay, so what do I want to deploy? I want to deploy Microsoft Foundry. So all I have to do is just search for Foundry, and then it will pop up here. And then all I have to do is just click on create a resource, and then put in like what's the subscription and what resource group it should be living in, give it a name, give it a region, right? Because we have Microsoft has the largest number of data centers around the world. We have the data center in Qatar, actually 3, and we have all over the region as well. So you would want to choose, you have access to so many different regions. If you're a customer in Qatar, most probably you would go with Sweden or West Europe, or some of the regions that are compliant with the your company's policies. And then you define any specific security controls or storage controls. How do you want your storage to be accessed? Maybe you have your already storage account, you can connect it to it. You define how people can access your resource. Usually when you're doing POCs, you would keep it public, but in a production environment or in an enterprise, they'll never allow you to make anything. So you need to think about networking and all these other things. But anyways, yeah, so after you deploy your resource, let me just go to my already deployed resource. And then you will be able to here, as you can see, I have like a lot of different Foundry resources. But this specific, let me go to the actual resource group. This specific resource group has my Foundry resource already deployed. So all you got to do is just click on it. This is one experience, by the way. I'll show you also another experience of like how you could easily deploy it. All you got to do is just click on it, and then it will show up the resource, and then you will be able to navigate to the Foundry portal. Let's see here. Okay, I'm just gonna skip to the already open one. With the Foundry portal is literally ai.azure.com. So I could have actually started this journey by going to ai.azure.com, and then it will ask me from there, choose your resource group, choose your subscription, choose your other things. But I like to do it from Azure, just personal preference, because I want to have more control over things. But you could deploy it using this method, or you could also do it through the CLI from GitHub Copilot. You could do it in so many different ways. Okay. So once this loads, let's do this. Okay. So within my Foundry portal, which is, you're going to see different sections here. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So this is sort of like the landing page. So as you can see here, this is my Foundry resource. And then at the top, you're going to see that I have like different projects. So just for you to know the hierarchy, you have a Foundry resource, and under a Foundry resource, you can have multiple projects. Think of projects as like maybe like different use cases that you're working on. So this is how you segregate. Maybe like in your HR department, you have like 5-6 different use cases, and each ones have different members or so on. You could do it. You can have separate projects for them, and then. You can access the endpoint here. So all of the services that are going to be running in Foundry, you can access using this project endpoint. And then if you want to access specific OpenAI models, you get the OpenAI endpoint, and you have the key there as well. So let us explore the different sections. So first, let us go to the Discover page. So here you will see all of the different models that you have access to. Right, so we have already access to Claude, and even the model that was just released last night is available here as well. Maybe not in my tenant. You need to be part of a specific program, I think. But if I come here to view all models, we have the widest selections of models on the market right now. More than 11,000 models, whether it's open source or closed source models. We have a partnership with Hugging Face, so you can easily connect to Hugging Face models. You can run any of these services in using Foundry. So you might be wondering, okay, why can't I just go connect directly to DeepSeek? When you're in an organization, again, you care about like security controls and all these other things. So if you do it through Foundry, khalas, all of these things are already managed for you, right? Because it sits within the Azure platform, and Azure has its own networking, its own infrastructure. So you can choose the region, you can set the controls. So this is like the value that you get. So these are like all the different models that you have access to, and you will be able to experiment with easily. All right, and then we have here the agents section. So you can easily, with a click of a button, deploy an agent, and you already have like some template agents. Maybe you want to develop an PR review your GitHub PRs, an agent connected to SharePoint. So you don't have to start from scratch. And then you have also access to tools. Like I mentioned, there's like a lot of tools. Okay, so now almost 1,500. You don't need to worry about providing the logic for it. Like you can just access all the MCP servers from here, which is really valuable. All right. So yeah, let us then see. We also have like templates. So if you're someone new, you can easily start from this. Okay. So let me shift now quickly, because we only have 30 minutes left, to a bit more about like some of the features that are in Foundry and some of the things that were released. So again, these are all of like the components of Foundry. So you can either write it through code, you can do it through like VS Code as well, and it has all of these controls in place. Okay, let me skip through some of these points. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about the features of each of these pillars, right? So when it comes to building an agentic AI application, you're really concerned about these three steps. First, you need to actually build it. right? So how does the process look like there? How can Foundry help you there? What are some of the features announced there? Deploy, then you need to deploy your agent, you need to deploy your application. Then how do you actually then manage it post-deployment as well? So let's drill deeper into these things. I'm gonna show you this recorded demo, but we're gonna skim through some of it. I'm going to be here. They're just talking about some of the models available. One thing I do want to highlight is the model router. Anyone heard of the model router before? So one thing I mentioned earlier is what, like, about the token, managing tokens, and how it's now going to be, the trend is going to be, how do you manage your tokens and save token costs? Model router is a great thing for that. So let's say if you have an AI application and the user, for example, ask a very simple question like, hi, how are you? You need to, are you going to pass it to GPT 5.5 reasoning for that, or like Cloud 4.0 and boom, all your tokens are done? It generates a whole script just to answer this question. No, you're going to give it to like maybe a nano model or like a simple model or an SLM to do that. And then for the other tasks, you do other things. So model router is like a Foundry service that manages these things for you. So this is really great for organizations that are trying to explore that. But let me skim through the other parts. So
Fatima, sorry, how this differs from the orchestration architecture?
Sorry?
How this differs from the orchestration architecture for the model?
Yeah, so model router is managed for you. So you could, like you mentioned, you could build your own logic. يعني خلاص, you deploy all of these models, and then you build your orchestration layer that has a logic based on this, go here, and then you control everything, or you let Foundry do that for you, because there's already been a lot of engineering effort done to optimize this, and it's constantly updated. You can go with that. Really, again, depends on how much control you want to have.
But itself, this is also a model.
It's a combination of models. A lot of these things are abstracted. If you're interested to know more, I can share some articles later. But it is abstracted. It's just like a managed service, right? So
it's a model or for a service.
It's an endpoint. So like when you create it, you can put it into your application. So let me show you. Actually, I don't think we have time to show it, but basically when you go to your agent, you go to the model section and then you click on it and you deploy it. So it comes under the model section. Yeah. But if you're talking about like, is it a model like GPT 5.5, GPT 1? No, it's like a combination of different reasoning logics and like some application code there as well to handle the routing. Yeah.
In terms of switching between models, does it do that based on the prompt or based on the context?
Based on a lot of different data points. Again, like I mentioned, it's a model router. The way it works is it's already been trained, and it's like a managed service. It already knows how to handle certain like basic questions, and you have certain knobs that you can control, but a lot of these things are managed for you. It's mainly for if you want to let Foundry take care of this thing for you, right? Again, it's just an extra level of abstraction. You can always code it yourself, but then you've got to worry about maintaining that as well. With model router, it takes care of it for you. Okay, so let us just go through the other part. What happened here? Okay, so okay. So we talked about the Foundry portal. Let me just skim through this demo. So here, also another thing you have within Foundry is you have, you can, like I mentioned, you can do it from within VS Code as well. So from VS Code, you'll have access to the model catalog and do your deployment if you don't want to like go to the browser. And then if you have, let me just mute this. If you have GitHub Copilot, you can just do it through the GitHub Copilot chat. Here you just give it the command. You want to create a Foundry agent that does these things, has access to these files, and use this specific template. So automatically it builds a plan and executes these tasks for you. So let me just skim through this. Okay, these parts we already talked about. So again, yeah, this is what I was talking about. So when you come here to the model section, it will show you like an option to select the model router as well. So you can, when you create your agent, let me just pause here. You have the option to select the model. Again, what did we say an agent is? It's a combination of model, instructions, and tools. So you can easily connect to the wide array of tools that we have access to, the knowledge bases and Foundry IQ, and deploy your agents and integrate them with other applications. You also have like a lot of voice capabilities integrated within the Foundry SDK itself. So you have so many different pre-built voices that you can choose from, and you can bring your own custom neural voice. And there's this one project I worked on, and one thing voice models are not good at is, like, for example, the Qatari accent. Right? And suddenly they shift into like Saudi accent or Lebanese accent or something like that. So we had a requirement and we wanted to make it more like local. So we used custom neural voice in Azure. We had some Qatari colleagues just record their voice for a demo, and then it was able to perform way better. You just have to like record them saying a bunch of words. So that's also an option that you have. And then you can, once your agent is ready, you can easily publish it and integrate it into different applications. So apologies, I'm just going really fast because this is not a deep dive session and we have different things to cover. So you can easily, and with a click of a button, then integrate it into Microsoft Teams, which where a lot of organizations work their daily tasks on. And because it is already in Foundry, I have access to all of the evaluations. So out of the box, we have so many different sort of metrics that are and evaluators that are in Foundry. Also the ones taking care about tools, like how to, whether it's detecting the right tool or so on. And having that layer of monitoring and observability there as well, like how is the performance of the agent, the token consumption, it's passing its test cases, and so on. So this is more like a high-level view of what is there in Foundry. So let us just quickly go over those pillars. So when it comes to building, these are like some of the challenges that people have. And they want to be able to, basically, the core is to be able to iterate faster and have governance and security and control. And this is where you have the Microsoft Agent Framework. Anyone used the Microsoft Agent Framework before? Anyone used AutoGen before? AutoGen or semantic kernel. So Microsoft Agent Framework is like it's one general availability. It's built on top of these tried and tested frameworks. And it really makes it very simple to build agents. So there's different frameworks you could choose. So probably another one is like a LangChain or maybe Pydantic AI. So we have the agent framework here as well. That is production ready, and you can easily work on these different on the Foundry SDK. Okay, so I'm going to skip through some of these components, but this is just to give you an idea. So Agent Framework is available in Python and in .NET. So if you prefer those specific ones, you can use the Agent SDK. And as you can see, it has like a very easy to understand library to be able to build your agents. And you can run it locally and then easily deploy it into the cloud or package it into other clouds as well, like whether you want to deploy it in AWS Bedrock or Google AI as well. And out of the box, it already has some of these agent orchestration frameworks, because there's different ways you can orchestrate your multi-agent system. So it has that already there based on AutoGen, which is like a very successful and innovative library for multi-agent orchestration. And it integrates easily with a lot of like open source tools as well. We will do a deep dive session on Microsoft Agent Framework as well. And you also have within Foundry the capability to handle both short-term and long-term agents with like Foundry's managed memory. So that this is also a really exciting part. Fortunately, I can't go into too much detail into it right now. And of course, out of the box, as soon as you build your agent into Foundry, I didn't show you, but there was an App Insights and a Log Analytics workspace also deployed. So you can easily be able to query how people are interacting with your agent. Okay. Let me pass through some of these things. Okay. Again, it's available through VS Code, so many different models that you're able to access, and really allows you to build an agent for your business needs with the wide variety of tools that you have. This is one of the announcements that was in Foundry is Toolboxes. This is something I am really, really excited about how do you handle tools for, right? Let's say you have so many agents and sometimes you're defining the same tool in like multiple agents. And then let's say if the tool logic changes, you have to go ahead and change it in all of these other agents as well. So with Toolbox, that's sort of abstracted for you. I'm going to go through this very quick demo. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but basically here what Jeff is talking about, let me mute him, is he's talking about, like, he's showing an application where his agent has access to so many of these different tools, right? Which is defined in like in an MD file. And then he has so many different, like he goes to the Microsoft Foundry toolbox to create these tools as a toolbox and then expose the toolbox to the agent instead of individual tools. Why should we do that? Well, several things. Not only does it allow you to control the tools in a more central location, but also a very important part is, so here, as you can see, he's showcasing like 2 examples of agents. So agent A, as you can see, all of the tools are defined as functions, as endpoints, and each time if something changed, there's a lot of technical depth, you got to go ahead and change the code base and so on. There's so many different auth logics for each one of them and all that. So in this other example, he has the same agent, but it is defined with the Microsoft Foundry toolbox, which is just like one endpoint, and all of your tools are defined in Foundry, and it behaves the exact same way, but the difference is it's more centralized and the token consumption is also less, because you're not passing. If you come here, if you see the token usage, here he shows, you're not passing all of the tokens, all of the agent function definitions to the model. The toolbox intelligently passes the right tools to the model at runtime in order to save costs. So here you can see 4,676, and here's just 467 tokens that were used. So this is also something really, really exciting, again, when it comes to token management. And you can bring your own MCP servers as tools. This is also another great announcement, allowing you to connect your own custom MCP servers. If you have you can define your MCP logic in a function app and integrate them easily as well. Also, A2A agent tools as well. We have a lot of innovation done there. We work with Google on making this happen, to easily have this communication between 2 different agents. So you were asking about this. I'm not sure if this is something you've already explored, to make it easier to manage authentication between different agents, the permissions, and all of those aspects as well. Voice Live got a lot of updates as well in Ignite and also in Build to make it easier to build real-time voice applications. So we've been using this for some, let's say, like call center use cases, or like an application that could help people practice their language. So there's a lot of things you could do with Voice Live API to handle audio input and output, and it abstracts a lot of the hassles that comes when it comes to building real-time voice applications. Okay. And again, we talked about Foundry IQ. So it allows you to integrate so many different knowledge bases into one place to be able to give access to that to your agent instead of managing so many different indexes. So you let Foundry access that for you. Okay, so this is when it comes to the building part, right? So what about when it comes to deploy? So you built your agent, now you want to actually deploy it. So what options do you have within Foundry to do that, right? Like, let's say you have different types of agents. You have maybe an agent that's like long running. How do you make sure that its performance is good and it's able to access all of these tools and so on? So Abdulrahman, you want to take over this part
Sure.
and tell us all about Microsoft Hosted Agents? Yeah.
Okay. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Abdulrahman Al-Taweel. Thank you, Fatima, for this slot. So, for the sake of time, I'm going to speed run through all of this, but
Unless the pizza is still taking long. Is pizza here?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
yeah,
That
so
was very
yeah.
fast.
I will be speaking about what's it called? Hosted agents, right? And Foundry and how it works, right? Okay. So I'm going to tell you guys how what it is first. Then I'm going to tell you why you should use it instead of other alternatives, and how it works. And then I'm going to end with a small demo. So for me, when I try to make products or any software and it works locally, I'm excited. Especially with AI nowadays, it's much easier to actually make products. However, when it comes to enterprise and actually putting it out there for people to use, to sell it and stuff like that, it is very hard. So this Foundry hosted agents solves this for agents that are built locally. Without any unnecessary friction, Microsoft does it all for you. That's pretty much what hosted agents is, right? You only need to build your agent, whether you use Python, whether you use .NET, whether you use an SDK like LangChain and stuff like that. You containerize it in a cluster, in a Kubernetes cluster. Yeah. And then you pass it on to Foundry, and Foundry does the rest for you. It does the evals for you. It does the tracing for you. It even makes the agent much better, right? However, if you try to do it without Foundry, you're going to have to build the agent, of course. Then you're going to have to spin up a VM. You're going to have to take care of Kubernetes clusters yourself. You're going to have to take care of auto scaling, load balancing, etc., etc. Nobody likes doing that, especially when you're trying to focus on making the agent smarter rather than wasting resources on something that you don't have to, right? Also, hopefully it will be generally available in early July, and KPMG and other customers like that are already using hosted agents. So this does say something about how good it is, right? Moving on to why should we use it instead of running it yourself and doing everything yourself. First of all, there's lower cost. There's something called scales to zero, which pretty much all it does is every time the agent is idle, it pulls down the container and waits for the request. When the request comes back, when the request comes from the user or customer, it spins back up automatically, and it doesn't bill you for anything other than the request. So for example, if there's 10 requests a week, you get billed for the 10 requests and not for the week. Moving on to stronger isolation. Here's this scenario. Imagine a client A and client B are using the same agent, and accidentally the agent gets some of the data, the sensitive data of client A, writes it somewhere, and accidentally sends it and feeds it to client B. This is a massive problem and massive security issue, right? So what Foundry Hosted Agent does is that each user has a hypervisor isolated sandbox where there is no leakage possible for that, right? And this is great. This solves a very massive issue with trying to do this yourself. And there's also another major thing as identity and audit, which gives the agent his own identity. Pretty much imagine it as an intern that you just gave it a Microsoft account, and it can access your teams, but through itself. It has its own identity rather than sharing a single account for multiple agents where you can't track what agent is doing what. So you can log specific agents, what they're doing, if they're doing something wrong, how to fix them, etc., etc. It can access your database, it can access all of that, and you know what it's doing. For enterprise governance, Microsoft Agent 365 is acting as an admin panel for hosted agents, for agents that you're getting from third-party tools, and it's all there for you to add role-based access controls to specific models or to all models in general. And finally, the distribution to Microsoft 365. So sometimes we struggle with where should we actually deploy our agents, right? Should we make a specific application? Should we try to put it in a third-party tool? So this pretty much solves it by putting it in either Teams, Microsoft Teams, or Microsoft 365 Copilot, where users and customers are already there. So there's no friction when it comes to that. And it's very seamless. It's just a click of a button, to be honest. And yeah.
Sorry, Abdulrahman.
Yes.
One thing. So is it the hosted agent? Is it something similar to app service on Azure portal, but instead of hosting apps, you are hosting agents? Is it something like this?
Think of it like that. It's an extra, do you want to?
Yeah,
Take it?
I believe it's like an extra layer of abstraction so that you don't have to focus on doing the tedious stuff as getting the resources and stuff like that. It's pretty much how microservices were back in the day, right? Now they're trying to do it for agents, and that's what Foundry Hosted Agents is trying to achieve, and it does achieve.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that answer?
An extra layer of abstraction. That's precisely what it is. So if you want, again, you want more control, you can just host your agent in the Azure Container Service and then just manage it over there. But if you can allow Foundry to manage it for you, just like Abdulrahman mentioned, why would you do that? Because once it's in Foundry, all of the other things that I just mentioned, the guardrails, the security controls, easy publishing, and all these other aspects apply to it as well. So you can build your agent in whatever tool or framework that you want, and then publish it in Foundry Agent Service and be able to integrate it into all of these other components and enjoy the benefits of the Foundry.
This, like, for example, the model routing that you mentioned earlier is included as well in the same architecture of the hosted agent service.
What do you mean?
يعني, for example, it's set up like in case I have many agents, okay, and I want a sort of orchestration for them.
Okay.
So is the model routing that you mentioned also can be included in the same architecture?
We'll have to explore that because a model router is something you would define on the agent level. So you're asking like if you have like multiple agents, then having like you would need to define sort of like an orchestration agent that would then choose these aspects. So you could do that with Microsoft Agent Framework and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So moving on to how, and I believe that's the most important part because we need to know that we know that already. That I've prefaced already that it is quite tedious, but you are able to do this on your own. You don't need hosted agents. But the real question is using Foundry hosted agents easier than trying to do this all on yourself? And I believe it is because I'll tell you why now. Number one, you need to just have your agent built in one of these 5 SDKs, right? Microsoft Agent Framework, LangGraph, so on and so forth, and put it in a container, and that's it. No extra dependencies, nothing. That's literally it. Like, I don't get how much easier it could get than that, but it does. You don't even need to containerize the things. You can zip up your Python code or your .NET code and then send it to Foundry, and Foundry does the rest for you if you just configure a agent.yaml file.
This is really valuable because a lot of the times that I see like, maybe you have someone that's really good in AI development, but then when it comes to deployment, they have to depend on their apps team, and then they run into like a lot of issues. So with Foundry Agent Hosted Agent Service, you just bring your Python code, zip it, and then the Foundry Agent Service takes care of that for you. You don't need to know all of the complex, Docker, containers, zipping, shipping, managing the number of nodes, all these things.
And it's good is that you don't have to change or tweak your code at all. It's not telling you to use Microsoft Agent Framework. It's telling you, I've given you these options. I've given you many options. Use anything you want and just get it off your shelf and put it into Foundry, and you make your life much easier. So I'm gonna show you guys a small demo. But I'm not gonna run this live, unfortunately, for the sake of time. But some background on the model, on the demo is the agent is called Foundry Coordinator, and pretty much it's acting like an employee rather than a chatbot, right? And it's a networks operation coordinator, which runs continuously on its own, and it logs and checks for anomalies. And when it does find some anomalies, it investigates them and writes a report on them. And before trying to run any destructive resources, it calls a method called request approval. And then this request approval needs a human to interact with it, whether to accept or reject it. And let me show you the video now. Anyways, so pretty much as you guys saw, the first he clicked accept on that message, Foundry woke up Fibi immediately, gave it back its conversation history, kept it all intact, kept the memory intact, kept all of that in memory, right? And Fibi never really knew that it was offline. It came back online and it worked like nothing happened. And the best thing is, it's never like if Jeff has stayed and did not accept the message for, let's say, 10 days, you're not going to get billed for those 10 days waiting. It's idle. You only get billed for what the agent works on, right?
And it retains the context, the memory, all these things. And this is a trend we're seeing with a lot of use cases now, this concept of long-running agents. If you haven't heard about it, read about it. There's a lot of articles, like, things like OpenClaw and things like that. They also have this concept about like an agent that's just running there and it's executing tasks on a longer horizon, and Foundry Agents, hosted agent service allows you to do that.
Yeah, and if you wanted to build this pattern, you'd have to somehow just keep a virtual machine running, which is very inefficient and very expensive, right? But with Foundry, now you don't have to. I don't have the clicker.
Yeah. So that is it on this part. Any specific questions on Foundry agent hosted agents? Okay, good, because I think we are over time. We're just gonna talk a little bit quickly over the other things, and then we're gonna skip to the questions. Why do we have so many?
We are crowded.
We're crowded. We're feeling generous. Okay, so again, when it comes to deployment, literally with a click of a button, you just click on publish, and then you're able to get the endpoint and integrate it within Copilot and M365 and other tools as well. And then it integrates with Agent 365. Anyone heard of Agent 365? So if you're someone who works on governance and security, like you need Agent 365, because we just said, for 2028 they're predicting 1.3 billion agents. At enterprise, this is almost a nightmare. Where are all these agents? Maybe like my employees are building agents on their own. I have no clue what these agents are doing, what are they accessing, and all that stuff. So Agent 365 allows you that layer, gives you that layer of governance on top of the agents in your systems, and a Foundry agent easily integrates with it. And even, by the Agent 365 supports other platforms that build that have these agents. So then the last part is mainly about the operation. So خلاص, after you deploy it, then you see that, is that it? I forget about it? No. Monitor the cost, monitor the performance, the usage. So I get an alert from the security team. Oh, this thing is non-compliant. How do I handle that? The model retires. How do I manage that? Right. So let's talk a little bit about how Foundry helps that real quick. You have the tracing capabilities. Yani you get detailed logs of each session, the response, the specific action taken, so that and the number of tokens consumed, so that you are able to use this telemetry. You also have evaluation. There's a lot of different built-in evaluators, like we discussed, that could help make it easier for you to implement a Gen AI ops strategy. Monitoring, being able to see the cost, the evals, any specific security alerts. All of these things are integrated within the Foundry portal. You also have something called the agent optimizer that will give you some suggestions for how you can make your agent even better as well. This is, I'm not going to show this demo, but this is really cool. We'll send you the recording of these sessions. But it's within the Microsoft Agent framework, with just a simple click of a button. Right now, maybe some of you who are some customers, you would know, because I've been working with you. You would know, for example, like GPT-4o, which is one of the most popular models, it's like retiring, right? So a lot of customers now, they need to think about how to move to a newer model. So one of the challenges the customers face is, I don't know how to do evaluation. Well, I need to have like a data set first prepared, right? You need to have like sort of your golden data set to sort of benchmark on top of it. I need to iterate, I need to optimize. With the Microsoft Agent Framework, now that's easier, because you already enabled the traces. It builds the golden data set, a JSON-L file with all of like the things that you could use in your eval framework. It reasons from on top of the traces, and it suggests optimizations for you, and the whole thing is integrated. It's a demo, but we're not going to see it right now. And of course, the content filters as well, so that you have across all of these different metrics to be able to control if a user is violating certain principles as well. Okay. Last thing is just about the Foundry local. Again, like we mentioned, so now it runs on all of these devices. So you can run it on an Android, on an Apple, or on a Windows phone. So this is really exciting. If you're someone who likes to tinker with the more like edge devices, I encourage you to explore it. So it really, Foundry allows you to go from all the way to the cloud to a IoT device. So yeah, that's it. Just wanted to end with just this term, like this is something real. It's not just like, shiny demos and so on. We see it working with customers, and Microsoft is like one of the leading when it comes to AI application development frameworks. We really have like the whole end-to-end story, right? Whether you want to do low code, pro code, you want to work from VS Code, you want to do it from GitHub, we give you all of these options. These are some URLs where you could learn more. Do not miss out on the AI Skills Fest, so that you can get your free voucher. And you can easily just start today at ai.azure.com to explore these things yourself. Thank you so much. Let us head to questions.